Across history, there are stories that refuse to be forgotten. Tales of lost worlds and magnificent empires swallowed by the earth in cataclysms. They are embedded within our collective consciousness, a haunting reminder that even great civilizations can vanish. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, names resonating with mystery and loss. What if Sumer, Egypt and the Indus Valley inherited a far older legacy? A quest to discover the truth of our origins, blurring myth and reality. The search for vanished worlds is a journey into what it means to be human. Global mythology tells of a lost utopian perfection, a cautionary tale and a beacon of hope. The ghosts of fallen empires challenge us to look beyond the accepted narrative. We venture into the shadowy realm of forgotten truths, exploring Lemuria and Mu. Are these merely myths or fragments of a deliberately forgotten history? The Chronicle of Lost Continents is a tapestry woven from scientific inquiry and ancient myth. Geologists and archaeologists seek to explain anomalies through logic. Land bridges and continental drift reconstruct our planet's history. Mystics find evidence in sacred texts and mythology, viewing world history as a spiritual drama. Lemuria stands at the intersection of these worlds, born from scientific hypotheses. This interplay between observation and belief makes the study of lost worlds compelling. The idea of a lost continent holds undeniable power over the human imagination. It transcends cultural boundaries, speaking to a deep part of our psyche. The allure lies in discovering sunken cities, and the implications such a discovery would have for our understanding of ourselves. The theory of a lost civilization offers a solution to enduring enigmas. The concept often represents a paradise lost, a utopian vision. This vision serves as a counterpoint to the anxieties of our time. The search for lost continents will never truly end. It is a journey to reclaim lost wisdom, forever beckoning us to look deeper and question everything. The oceans hold profound mysteries. 80% remains unexplored. Beneath crushing pressure lies a world less accessible than space, where whispers of lost continents echo. The idea of sunken continents seems fantasy, yet Earth's history is one of constant change. Tectonic plates shift, volcanoes erupt, and coastlines change. Marine fossils in the Himalayas prove dramatic shifts. If you are enjoying this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Legends from diverse cultures speak of deluges, a shared memory of cataclysmic floods. Could Atlantis or Lemuria be memories of sea level rise after the Ice Age? We search for submerged coastal fringes and lost island civilizations. The whispers suggest ancient worlds lie in watery graves. The challenge, penetrate the ocean's dark veil to rediscover these truths. The narrative of Paradise Lost resonates across cultures, from the Garden of Eden to Hesiod's Greece. This universal motif speaks of an original state of perfection, tragically lost. These lost worlds are depicted as utopian, their inhabitants living in balance with nature. This vision serves as a mirror, reflecting the flaws of our modern civilization. The story of the fall is crucial, imbued with moral significance. This serves as a potent cautionary tale. Great power comes with great responsibility. Ultimately, the power of Paradise Lost lies in its promise of redemption. They are blueprints for a potential future. It is this blend of nostalgia, warning, and hope that gives these myths their enduring power. The story of lost continents often begins with Atlantis described by Plato, but this overshadows other tales of sunken lands. In India, the Tamil people speak of Kumari Kandam, a submerged continent. In the Pacific, there's the legend of Mu, a motherland destroyed by volcanic eruptions. These traditions share a core narrative, an advanced homeland destroyed by a great flood. This suggests a shared global memory of a real event. Embarking on a quest to uncover the secrets of Lemuria and Mu is to take a journey into the deepest mists of time, far beyond recorded history. But the legends of the lost worlds beckon us to look further back. Somewhere around 12,000 years ago marks the end of the last ice age, a time of catastrophic glacial melting, dramatic sea level rise and mass extinctions. This convergence of myth and geological fact is too compelling to ignore. Therefore, our journey is an exploration of this critical turning point in the history of the Earth and of humanity. To open our minds to the possibility of a human past far older, richer and more mysterious than we have ever been led to believe. We'll explore the legendary empires of Lemuria and Mu. Though often conflated, they have distinct origins and locations. Lemuria, linked to the Indian Ocean and Kumari Kandam, contrasts with Mu, rooted in Pacific mysticism. Mu's story comes from ancient texts, describing a Pacific motherland. These legends have merged, influencing modern mythology. Let's journey into these intertwined legends to uncover their secrets. Our story begins with a small, nocturnal primate, the lemur. Found almost exclusively on Madagascar, its fossils were also unearthed thousands of miles away in India. How could this be, separated by the Indian Ocean? This biological enigma challenged scientific understanding. It suggested a vanished connection between India and Madagascar. This riddle of the wandering lemur sparked debate and radical ideas. What if the ocean hid a lost piece of Earth? The lemur became the catalyst for the birth of Lemuria. To understand how a lost continent theory emerged, we must go back to the mid-19th century. This was an era of scientific revolution when beliefs about the natural world were being shattered. The pivotal event was the publication of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species in 1859. Darwin's theory of evolution provided a framework for understanding life on Earth. The puzzle of biogeography became a hot topic. Answering these questions required thinking on a planetary scale. It was into this atmosphere that the idea of Lemuria was born. It was considered a rational way to solve a pressing evolutionary puzzle. Philip Sclater, a respected zoologist, grappled with the lemur problem. The lemurs of Madagascar and India, absent in Africa, demanded explanation. In the Quarterly Journal of Science, Sclater highlighted Madagascar's unique species. He proposed an ancient link between Madagascar and India, a large lost continent. This continent, now the Indian Ocean, was the lemur's homeland. Sclater's hypothesis, intended to solve a zoological puzzle, would capture the public imagination. The concept of a land bridge was a cornerstone of 19th century biogeography. In the absence of any knowledge of plate tectonics, scientists needed a mechanism to explain how plants and animals could cross the vast oceans that separated continents. The idea that land could rise and fall, creating temporary connections between distant shores, was the most logical and widely accepted explanation. These hypothetical land bridges were invoked to explain all sorts of biological conundrums. Lemuria was simply the name given to the proposed secret path across the Indian Ocean. From their perspective, the Earth's surface was like a giant, slowly moving platform, creating and destroying connections between the continents. It explained the lemurs, and it fit comfortably within the established scientific framework. It was, for all intents and purposes, good science for its time, even if we now know that the underlying geological model was fundamentally incorrect. To appreciate the Lemuria hypothesis, understand the now obsolete concept of fixed continents. Until the mid-20th century, scientists believed the continents were permanent and unchanging. They accepted vertical movement, but rejected horizontal drift. Fossil records showed continents were once connected, creating a contradiction. How to connect stationary continents? The solution: land bridges. This led to a phantom geography of sunken continents. Sclater's Lemuria was simply the Indian Ocean land bridge. Continental drift was ridiculed, challenging the fixist worldview. It took 50 years and the discovery of plate tectonics for acceptance. In that static world, the only way to solve the Lemur riddle was to sink a continent. A theory needs a powerful name. Philip Sclater christened his lost landmass Lemuria. The name was simple, memorable, and linked to the lemurs that inspired it. Lemuria sounds ancient and mysterious, almost mythological. Ernst Haeckel adopted the term, proposing Lemuria was the cradle of the human race. The name became shorthand for a lost paradise. The power of the name Lemuria was that it could contain all of these grand ideas. Soon, mystics and occultists would take over. The lemur sparked the theory of Lemuria, which gained traction by seemingly solving geological puzzles. Geologists noticed striking similarities between rock strata of southern India and Madagascar. This suggested they were once part of the same landmass. The Gondwana series of rocks in India, Madagascar, South Africa, South America and Antarctica implied a past connection. Lemuria explained this geological continuity and the Indian Ocean basin's existence. Thus, the case for Lemuria seemed strong, built upon zoological and geological evidence. Sometimes, scientific theories, though later disproven, provide a framework for pre-existing myths. This happened with Lemuria. Philip Sclater unwittingly created the perfect vehicle for occult and theosophical movements. Helena Blavatsky, a co-founder of the Theosophical Society, seized upon Lemuria. She incorporated it into her spiritual cosmology, transforming it into a vast stage for cosmic evolution and the home of an ancient race. This marked a turning point. Lemuria now had a dual identity, a scientific hypothesis and a sacred lost homeland. The line between science and myth blurred, leading Lemuria into modern occultism. Every scientific theory is a product of its time, built upon the knowledge and assumptions of its era. The theory of Lemuria illustrates this principle. It was a logical solution to scientific problems, conceived within the confines of 19th century geology and biology. For the zoologist, it explained the strange distribution of lemurs. For the geologist, it explained the matching rock strata across the Indian Ocean. However, the theory rested on the flawed assumption that continents were fixed in place. We should see it as a vital stepping stone in the history of science. It framed the questions that would ultimately lead to the discovery of continental drift. Philip Sclater died believing in Lemuria. He could never have imagined the strange legacy his zoological hypothesis would leave. He launched a myth that would far outlive its scientific origins. The scientific concept of Lemuria is now completely defunct. Yet, the myth of Lemuria thrives. It is now more associated with mystical ideas than primates. This, then, is the strange, unintended legacy of a Victorian zoologist, opening onto vast inner landscapes of spiritual history. As Lemuria faded, a grander vision emerged. Continental drift revealed continents as rafts of rock, moving over vast timescales. This understanding revealed the ghost of Gondwana, uniting the southern hemisphere. Geologists found plant fossils and glacial scars across continents. Mountain ranges matched like torn pieces. materializing Gondwana from the data. This explained the puzzles that birthed Lemuria, revealing continents moving apart, stranding species and sundering connections. The theory of plate tectonics and the existence of the supercontinent Gondwana provided a beautifully elegant new answer to Philip Sclater's Old Riddle. The reason that lemur fossils were found in India and on the island of Madagascar, but not in mainland Africa, was because India and Madagascar were once neighbours, huddled together on the eastern flank of Gondwana. Africa was nearby, but the specific geological history of the region meant that the connection between Madagascar and India was more intimate and lasted longer. The lemur's ancestors, the theory went, simply walked across the land that connected these two regions before the great continental divorce began and the Indian Ocean started to form between them. This explanation seemed to resolve everything perfectly. It accounted for the specific biological affinity between India and Madagascar, providing a direct terrestrial link for the migration of their shared fauna and flora. It also explained why these species were absent from Africa. The Mozambique Channel, which now separates Madagascar from the African coast, likely formed earlier, isolating the island from Africa before its final separation from India. The distribution of fossils was no longer a puzzling anomaly, but a predictable consequence of the known sequence of continental breakup. The theory of Gondwana appeared to have solved the lemur problem once and for all, rendering the hypothesis of a sunken Lemurian continent completely obsolete and unnecessary. This new narrative became the accepted mainstream scientific account, taught in universities and featured in textbooks around the world. Lemuria was relegated to the history books, a curious footnote from a pre-tectonic era of science. The story was now simple. Gondwana existed. It held India and Madagascar together, it broke apart, and the continents drifted to their present positions. The lemurs were simply ancient passengers on these continental rafts, their distribution a living echo of a geography that had vanished tens of millions of years ago. It was a neat, tidy solution that seemed to close the book on the mystery of the Indian Ocean's lost connections. However, science is a process of constant questioning and refinement. And as paleontologists and biologists looked closer at this neat and tidy solution, a new and profoundly difficult problem began to emerge. The new answer to the old riddle was elegant, it was powerful, and it was based on the solid foundation of plate tectonics. But as researchers began to precisely date both the continental breakup and the evolution of the lemurs themselves, they discovered a glaring and seemingly irreconcilable contradiction. The new answer, it turned out, had a fatal flaw hidden within its timeline. The Gondwana explanation for lemur distribution faces a devastating problem: timing. Gondwana broke up around 180 million years ago, with Madagascar and India fully separated by 88 million years ago. But primates, including lemurs, only appear in the fossil record 55 to 60 million years ago. The math doesn't work. How could lemur ancestors use a land connection that disappeared millions of years before they existed? This discrepancy reopens the case, forcing us to ask, how did lemurs get to Madagascar? The rafting hypothesis. It suggests lemurs' ancestors crossed the ocean on floating mats of vegetation. Swept out to sea during storms, these rafts, against all odds, drifted across the Indian Ocean. A winning lottery ticket in the sweepstakes of dispersal, one made landfall on Madagascar. While sounding like fantasy, many biologists consider it the most plausible explanation. However, the immense distance and the need for multiple rafting events pose profound difficulties. The rafting hypothesis has led some scientists to reconsider an old idea: a temporary land bridge or chain of islands. The improbability of the rafting theory has allowed the concept of a lost land connection to be re-examined. Perhaps there was a later link between India and Madagascar. This is supported by geological data from the floor of the Indian Ocean. The Mascarene Plateau lies between India, Madagascar and the Seychelles Plateau. Some geologists propose these features are remnants of a microcontinent. Volcanic activity could have created a chain of large islands, almost like stepping stones across the Indian Ocean, requiring only short-distance island hopping or a nearly continuous land bridge. This addresses the biological improbability of long-distance rafting. Scientists studying drifting continents find parallels in southern India's traditions. The Tamil people have a legend of Kumari Kandam, a landmass lost to the sea. It was their ancestral homeland, devoured by the ocean. Recorded in ancient Tamil texts, Kumari Kandam was south of India. Legends say the sea claimed the land, forcing migration north. This aligns with the proposed location of Lemuria. Modern science and ancient tradition converge, suggesting a vanished land in the Indian Ocean. Kumari Kandam may be a cultural memory of real geological events. The story of Kumari Kandam is central to the Tamil people. It's said this sunken land was the origin of human culture and learning. They say there were writing schools called sangams, where poets and wise people met. Writings from the first and second sangams were lost when the land went under the water. After the first cities were lost to the sea, the survivors started the city of Madurai. Kumari Kandam is described as a huge and rich land with rivers and resources. Some think it connected India to other lands across the Indian Ocean. For many Tamil people, Kumari Kandam is a real part of their history and cultural foundation. The narrative of Kumari Kandam positions this lost continent as the very cradle of civilization. In Tamil tradition, language, poetry, philosophy and law first flourished here, challenging conventional history. Legends speak of a sophisticated urban society existing millennia before Mesopotamia and Egypt. Its destruction is attributed to massive marine transgressions, Cradle, or seizure by the ocean. Could this be a historical memory of post-glacial sea level rise, which destroyed coastal settlements? The legend transforms into ethnogeology, a culture's memory of catastrophic geological change, preserving the memory of a drowned world. The Indian Ocean remains a place of profound mystery where scientific puzzles and ancient legends converge. Science struggles to explain the lemur's presence in Madagascar. We also have the tradition of Kumari Kandam, a cultural memory preserved by the Tamil people, speaking of a great land lost to floods. Modern geology confirms catastrophic flooding at the end of the last ice age. Are we seeing different paths leading towards the same hidden truth? Perhaps there was a different configuration of land that served as both the highway for the lemurs and the homeland of the Tamil people. The enduring mystery of the Indian Ocean reminds us that the map of the ancient world may still have significant revisions waiting to be made. Our journey into the mystery of the Indian Ocean now takes a pivotal turn. The scientific hypothesis of Lemuria shone a light on a more profound legend from southern India, Kumari Kandam. This convergence is remarkable, as if modern science and ancient sages described a vast, lost land south of India. Lemuria and Kumari Kandam became intertwined, labels for the same phantom landmass. This fusion created a powerful narrative, giving the geological hypothesis a human face. Exploring Kumari Kandam is exploring the soul of the Lemurian myth. moving into questions of human origins and lost wisdom. It is about the cradle of civilization, waiting for the world to recognize the truth hidden within its poetic verses. The name Kumari Kandam is steeped in history. The term appears in the Skanda Purana, mentioning it as a vast kingdom. Its roots stretch into Tamil literary tradition. The concept of a land devoured by the sea is foundational to Tamil identity. It translates to Land of the Virgin, linked to the goddess Kanya Kumari. Her temple stands at Cape Comorin, seen as a remnant of the lost continent. The name evokes a sacred primordial land claimed by nature. References appear in Sangam literature, speaking of lands lost to the sea. This memory is woven into their literary history. It's a counter-narrative to the idea that the myth is a 19th century invention. The Tamil people told stories of a sunken homeland long before. This account stands as a powerful independent witness. At the heart of the Kumari Kandam story are the three Sangams. These were writing schools, gatherings of poets and wise men that went on for years. The Sangams were workshops where Tamil language writings were made with help from the Pandyan kings. The first two Sangams were in cities now at the bottom of the sea. The first Sangam was in Thenmadurai, lasting thousands of years before a flood wiped it out. After, they built Kapatapuram, starting the second Sangam. It was also lost when a second flood swallowed Kapatapuram. The Pandyan kings moved to Madurai, starting the third Sangam, the only one with real proof. The story of the three Sangams is about keeping culture safe, saving knowledge from a civilization erased by the ocean. You see, the Pandyan kings ruled the land of Kumari Kandam. Stories say these kings ruled for a very long time. They ruled for more than 10,000 years before the big flood. They helped important Sangam schools, leading a society that valued wisdom and poetry. The Pandyan family ruled a huge, well-organized kingdom. This timeline goes beyond regular history, placing the kingdom's start in the last ice age. This 10,000-year kingdom gives the Tamil civilization a deep sense of age and importance. The old Tamil writings give us details about what this continent looked like. The descriptions paint a picture of a huge and varied land, full of natural resources. They say the continent had big rivers like the Paruli River and the Kumari River. The writings talk about huge mountains and a kingdom called the Seven Mountain Areas. Some say it stretched from the bottom of India far to the south and west, connecting different shores. This imagined map makes Kumari Kandam feel like a real place, something you can see in your mind. The destruction is attributed to marine transgressions over a long period. The ancient Tamil term is, which translates as seizure by the ocean, implying a permanent conquest. This aligns with post-glacial sea level rise, an unstoppable invasion by the sea. Legends recall at least two major events. The first submerged Thenmadurai, forcing migration and ending the first Sangam. The second swallowed Kapatapura, completing the destruction. This final seizure wiped the continent, scattering survivors. Such events would be the literal end of the world. The legend may be one of the only surviving accounts of these events. The legend of Kumari Kandam presents a radical challenge to our conventional understanding of world history. The established narrative places the cradle of civilization in Mesopotamia, but the Tamil tradition tells a different story. A civilization flourished millennia before Sumer or Egypt on a now sunken continent in the Southern Ocean. Kumari Kandam, in this view, was the true cradle of civilization. This idea of a lost mother culture gives it a specific geographical and cultural home. This perspective reframes the history of the ancient world. Perhaps the appearance of sophisticated knowledge in Sumer and Egypt was not invention, but an inheritance from survivors of the Great Deluge. Kumari Kandam becomes the potential source for the seeds of knowledge that blossomed into the great civilizations. The story continues with the survivors. They found safety in what is now Tamil Nadu, southern India, bringing their culture, language and stories. The Tamil way of life is seen as a gift from these survivors. This survival story is central to Tamil culture, making their ancient language special. To be Tamil is to descend from those who rebuilt after the world's end. This belief fuels Tamil nationalism, seeing Kumari Kandam as proof of their culture's age and importance. The story shapes modern identity and politics. Kumari Kandam's legacy lives in the people, language and culture of southern India. It's found in the lively culture of the Tamil people. Ancient texts speak of lost lands, but we seek physical proof. The search for Lemuria and Kumari Kandam leads us to the sea. Surely some trace of a submerged civilization remains. The quest is for these sunken stones, proof of a lost world. The continental shelf off southern India and Sri Lanka is the primary search area. It is here that any coastal cities of an ancient civilization would have been. This submerged landscape represents a potential treasure trove of lost history. Tantalizing clues have emerged. Anomalies have been mapped on the seabed that defy geological explanation. This search for sunken stones is a quest to validate ancestral memories. Finding a man-made structure would be the ultimate vindication. The discovery of a submerged city would force a radical re-evaluation of civilization itself. Perhaps the most famous and fiercely debated piece of potential evidence for a lost chapter in human history lies in the shallow waters of the Palk Strait, the stretch of sea separating India from Sri Lanka. Here we find a mysterious and remarkable feature. A chain of limestone shoals that forms a broken linear causeway stretching for nearly 30 miles from shore to shore. Known in the West as Adam's Bridge, this feature is revered in Hindu tradition as Rama Setu, or Rama's Bridge. It sits at the precise intersection of myth, geology and modern political controversy, a physical landmark tied directly to one of India's most sacred epic poems. According to the ancient Hindu epic, the Ramayana, this bridge was built by the divine Prince Rama to transport his army of valiant ape-men, the Vanara, across the sea to Lanka. Their mission was to rescue Rama's beloved wife, Sita, who had been abducted by the demon king Ravana. The text describes how the Vanara, under the direction of their brilliant engineer Nala, constructed the causeway by placing rocks and entire mountains into the sea, which miraculously floated upon the water. For millions of Hindus, this is not an allegory, but a literal historical account of a divine, superhuman feat of engineering, and the causeway in the Palk Strait is the physical remnant of that bridge. For a long time, mainstream geology offered a more prosaic explanation. The bridge was described as a natural formation, a tombolo, which is a spit of sand that connects an island to the mainland, or a line of coral reefs that grew on a submerged ridge. It was seen as a product of sedimentation and natural coastal processes, a geological accident that just happened to resemble a man-made causeway. This explanation held sway for many years, dismissing the mythological account as pure fantasy. However, in recent years, this comfortable scientific consensus has been seriously challenged. The advent of high-resolution satellite imagery, particularly from NASA, has provided a new perspective on this ancient enigma. From space, the structure's linearity and coherence are strikingly apparent, looking far more like an artificial construction than a random series of sandbanks. Furthermore, analysis by some geologists and archaeologists has raised new questions. They point to evidence that the limestone shoals rest on a much older sandbar, suggesting the stones were placed there, not formed in situ. The debate has been reignited. Is Rama's Bridge a work of nature, or is it the ruin of the oldest, largest man-made structure on Earth? The origin of Rama's Bridge is debated when we look closer at its structure. The causeway is a chain of limestone shoals. Some argue the rocks are different from the seabed, quarried and transported, aligning with the Ramayana's description of a colossal engineering act. An archaeologist stated the rocks appeared placed on older sand, declaring it not a natural formation. Geologists maintain reef growth, sedimentation and sea level changes created it. Is it a divine bridge or a natural formation? It stands as a symbol of the tension between myth and science. Moving south along Tamil Nadu's coast, we find Pumpahar, a city celebrated in ancient texts, but also spoken of as being swallowed by the sea. Marine archaeology revealed a massive submerged structure offshore. Sonar scans showed a large U-shaped object. They also found rubble walls and man-made stone blocks. The scale suggested a city of immense size. This confirms that a significant portion of Pumpahar was indeed claimed by the sea. Lending credibility to the legends that the coastline of southern India has changed dramatically. The mystery of submerged ruins extends beyond Tamil Nadu. In Gujarat lies the legend of Dwarka, a city founded by Lord Krishna, swallowed by the sea. Texts describe a meticulously planned, fortified city. After Krishna's departure, the ocean rose, submerging Dwarka. In the 1980s, Dr. S.R. Rao discovered submerged remains off Dwarka, identifying them as the legendary city. Later, geometric structures were found in the Gulf of Cambay. Artifacts, including a wooden piece, dated back 9,500 years. This suggests a civilization predating Egypt and Mesopotamia. The Pacific holds profound architectural mysteries. Some islands feature megalithic ruins that demand an explanation. Two enigmatic sites are Nan Madol and the Moai statues of Easter Island. Nan Madol is a ceremonial city built on artificial islets. Its walls are built from massive basalt logs, some weighing 50 tons. Easter Island is famous for its Moai statues. The statues average 13 feet tall and weigh 14 tons. These sites are cited as evidence of a lost mother culture with advanced construction techniques. The scale and difficulty of construction leaves a nagging question. The archaeological evidence paints a complex and intriguing picture of profound anomalies. We have Rama's Bridge, Pumpahar, Dwarka, Nan Madol and Easter Island. Each site is a data point on a hidden map. The key lies in understanding the geological changes since the last ice age and the sea level rise. The search for lost civilizations is primarily underwater archaeology. The true origins of culture may lie offshore. The anomalies could be glimpses of this lost world. Sophisticated human societies existed in a different geographical context and were devastated by sea level rise. The sunken stones beckon us to look deeper. As the legend of Lemuria took root, a parallel myth was stirring: the continent of Mu. This new story emerged from the vast blue expanse of the Pacific. It spoke of a lost motherland, the primordial cradle of humanity. While often confused with Lemuria, its origins are separate, born from deciphering mystical texts. Mu shifts our focus to the Pacific, a dramatic backdrop for a story of continental catastrophe. The scattered archipelagos are seen as the last mountaintops of a once mighty landmass. Mu was born from the world of the esoteric, pieced together by those claiming access to secret knowledge. It speaks of a master race and a global empire before a fiery apocalypse. Mu became the great missing link, the central hub from which all ancient cultures derived their knowledge. Augustus Le Plongeon, a controversial 19th century figure, first whispered of Mu. Living among the Mayan ruins, Le Plongeon believed the Maya were the parent culture of Egypt and Greece. Mastering Mayan hieroglyphs, he claimed to have translated ancient texts, finding the story of Mu, a lost continent in the Atlantic. Destroyed by a volcanic catastrophe, its refugees, led by Queen Mu, founded Egyptian civilization. Though rejected by academics, Le Plongeon planted the seed of Mu in the lexicon of lost worlds. While Augustus Le Plongeon had coined the name Mu, he had firmly placed it in the Atlantic Ocean, effectively making it a synonym for Atlantis. The continent's dramatic relocation to the middle of the Pacific was the work of another, even more influential figure, James Churchward. An English-born occult writer, inventor and patent holder, Churchward would become the true high priest of the Mu mythology. He took Le Plongeon's fledgling idea, expanded it exponentially, and gave it the form that is most widely recognized today. He essentially performed a continental drift of his own moving Mu thousands of miles and transforming it into a uniquely Pacific legend. Churchward's story began, he claimed, during his time as a soldier in India in the late 19th century. There, he befriended a high-ranking temple priest, or rishi, who, after much persuasion, agreed to show him a set of secret ancient clay tablets. These tablets, Churchward alleged, were written in a long-dead language known only to the priest and one other master in all of India. The priest, seeing Churchward's passion, decided to teach him this forgotten tongue. For years, Churchward painstakingly learned the strange symbols, eventually becoming able to read the incredible story etched into the clay. This narrative formed the basis for his life's work. The tablets, according to Churchward, told the story of a great motherland called Mu, the place where humanity first appeared on Earth. Crucially, they located this continent not in the Atlantic, but as a vast landmass in the Pacific Ocean. This primordial paradise, the tablets revealed, had been destroyed in a single terrible night some 12,000 years ago, sinking into a fiery abyss of gas-filled caverns beneath the continent. Churchward claimed this was the original story, and that Plato's tale of Atlantis was merely a garbled, later echo of the far older and more significant destruction of Mu. He had effectively one-upped the legend of Atlantis. Armed with this supposed revelation from the Indian tablets, Churchward then connected his story to another set of alleged discoveries. He claimed that a geologist named William Niven had unearthed over 2,500 similar tablets in Mexico, which, when translated by Churchward, told the exact same story from the perspective of a Mu'an colony. This provided him with what he considered to be irrefutable cross-cultural proof. By combining these two sources, the mystical tablets from India and the archaeological tablets from Mexico, Churchward constructed an elaborate and detailed history of Mu, which he would present to the world in a series of best-selling books, forever changing the landscape of lost continent mythology. James Churchward was more than just a writer. He was a master synthesizer, a grand weaver of disparate threads into a single compelling tapestry. In his seminal 1926 book, The Lost Continent of Mu, The Motherland of Man, and its subsequent sequels, he presented his vision to a global audience. His genius lay in his ability to take a kernel of an idea, the name Mu, and build an entire world around it, complete with a history, a religion, a government, and a detailed account of its destruction. He wrote with an air of absolute authority, presenting his translations and theories not as speculation, but as undeniable historical fact, rescued from the mists of time. Churchward's narrative was all-encompassing. He argued that Mu was the source of all ancient civilizations. He claimed that the great cultures of India, Babylon, Persia, Egypt and the Maya were not original creations, but were merely the decaying remnants of colonies established by the far superior civilization of Mu. He created a vast historical timeline, stating that the empire of Mu flourished for tens of thousands of years, reaching its peak around 50,000 years ago. This grand, unified theory of history was incredibly appealing, as it offered a simple answer to all of the complex questions of human origins and ancient mysteries. To support his claims, Churchward drew evidence from a dizzying array of sources. He saw the influence of Mu everywhere he looked. He pointed to the similar pyramid structures in Egypt and Mexico, the shared swastika symbol found in cultures across the globe, and the prevalence of sun worship in ancient religions. All of these, he argued, were proof of a common origin in the motherland. He interpreted ancient writings, from the Hindu Ramayana to the Greek myths, as containing veiled references to Mu. He became a master of pattern recognition, connecting symbols and legends from unrelated cultures to fit his overarching narrative, weaving everything into his grand thesis. Churchward's books were an immense popular success. They were filled with maps, diagrams of sacred symbols, and dramatic descriptions of life in Mu. He wrote in an accessible and engaging style that captivated readers who were fascinated by ancient mysteries and dissatisfied with the dry accounts of mainstream history. He presented a romantic and exciting alternative, a story of a lost golden age that resonated deeply with the spiritual and esoteric currents of the early 20th century. While his work was, and still is, completely dismissed by academic science and history as pseudoscience, James Churchward almost single-handedly created the modern myth of Mu and secured its place in the pantheon of lost worlds. At the absolute core of James Churchward's elaborate mythology lie the mysterious Nacal tablets. These alleged artifacts are the primary source for his entire story, the bedrock upon which his grand edifice is built. According to Churchward, the Nacals were an ancient brotherhood of holy men, sent out from the motherland of Mu to teach its sacred wisdom to the colonies. The tablets they created were their sacred-inspired writings, containing the complete history of humanity, from creation to Mu's terrifying destruction. Without these tablets, Churchward's story would have no foundation. Churchward's description of the Indian tablets is tantalizingly specific. He claimed they were made of sun-baked clay and were incredibly ancient, stored away in the archives of a temple monastery. The language on them was not a human invention, but the original sacred language of the motherland, taught to the first humans by the deity. This language was composed of a complex system of symbols, esoteric in nature, that could only be understood by those initiated into their deepest meanings. This provided a convenient explanation for why only he and his rishi friend could read them, shielding his claims from any external verification. The Mexican tablets, supposedly discovered by William Niven, provided the crucial second source. Churchward claimed these stone tablets were created by the Nacals who had colonized the Americas. He asserted that they confirmed every detail of the Indian tablets, offering a parallel account of Mu's history. The fact that the two sets of tablets told the same story was, for Churchward, the ultimate proof of his theory's validity. However, modern analysis of Niven's actual discoveries shows no such thing. Niven did find thousands of artifacts, but they bear no resemblance to Churchward's descriptions. The Nakal tablets exist in a shadowy realm between fact and fiction. No credible evidence for their existence has ever been produced. The tablets in India have never been seen by any other researcher, and the tablets from Mexico do not support his story. They are what is known as source vouching, a common trope where authors claim access to secret ancient manuscripts to lend authority to their teachings. Whether Churchward genuinely believed in their existence or invented them as a literary device, the Nakal tablets remain the enigmatic, unverifiable, and likely non-existent cornerstone of the entire legend of Mu. Based on his alleged translations of the Nakal tablets, James Churchward painted a vivid and highly romanticized picture of life on the lost continent. Mu was not just an advanced civilization, it was a near-perfect utopia, the original paradise on Earth. For thousands of years, it was a world without conflict, without suffering, and without want. It was a global empire governed by a single benevolent ruler, an emperor-priest known as the Mu. Under his enlightened leadership, the 64 million citizens of Mu lived in peace and prosperity, their society dedicated to spiritual advancement and communal well-being. The society of Mu was highly organized and technologically sophisticated, yet lived in complete harmony with nature. Churchward described 7 great cities, the primary centers of religion, science, and education, along with many smaller towns and villages. The architecture was magnificent, with grand temples built of polished stone, free from any form of ornamentation. The people of Mu were masters of engineering, building cyclopean structures and paved roads that crisscrossed the continent. They were also skilled navigators, sailing the world's oceans in advanced ships to trade with their many colonies, spreading their culture and their peaceful philosophy across the globe. The people of Mu themselves were described as a highly evolved and beautiful race. They were a diverse population, but were dominated by a superior white race, which Churchward claimed was the dominant force on the continent. This racial element of his theory reflects the prevailing colonial attitudes of his time and is one of the more problematic aspects of his vision. These people, he asserted, were spiritually advanced, possessing psychic abilities like telepathy and astral projection as a matter of course. Their lives were simple and free from the stresses of the modern world, focused on personal growth and understanding the great cosmic truths of the universe. Churchward even went so far as to declare that the biblical Garden of Eden was not located in the Middle East, but was in fact a specific district on the continent of Mu. In his view, the story of Adam and Eve was a distorted allegory of the history of Mu, the true motherland from which all of humanity was born. This utopian vision was incredibly powerful. It tapped into a deep human longing for a lost golden age, a perfect world free from the corruption and violence of our own. Mu became the ultimate paradise lost, and its story a poignant reminder of a state of grace that humanity had once achieved and could perhaps one day reclaim. The spiritual and religious life of the people of Mu, as described by James Churchward, was central to their utopian society. Their religion was a pure and simple form of monotheism, the worship of a single omnipotent deity who was referred to as the Infinite One or the Creator. This deity was never depicted in any physical form, as they believed it was formless and omnipresent. However, the Creator's attributes and powers were represented through a complex system of symbols. The most important of these symbols, the one that encapsulated the entire process of creation, was a 7-headed serpent named Narayana. This 7-headed serpent was not an object of worship itself, but a sacred symbol representing the 7 distinct commands or intellects that the Creator used to bring the universe into existence. Each head of the serpent symbolized a different stage of creation, from the formation of gases to the creation of celestial bodies and finally the emergence of life and humanity. This intricate cosmology provided the people of Mu with a complete understanding of their place in the universe. Churchward made a point of connecting this 7-headed serpent to similar multi-headed snake deities found in other cultures, particularly the Naga of Hindu and Buddhist traditions, as evidence of Mu's global influence. The spiritual life of Mu was guided by the Nakal Brotherhood, an order of priest-scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding the sacred writings and the laws of the universe. They were the keepers of the divine wisdom and were responsible for educating the populace. Their teachings were based on the belief that humans were created with a divine spark, and that the purpose of life was to nurture this spark, progressing through multiple reincarnations until one could achieve unification with the Creator. This spiritual path was one of personal responsibility, self-improvement, and service to the community, which formed the ethical foundation of their peaceful society. Churchward also claimed that many of the most important figures in later religious history were educated in the wisdom of Mu. He asserted that Moses, for example, was not taught by the Egyptians, but by a surviving Nakal Brotherhood that had migrated to Egypt after the cataclysm. He argued that Moses' 10 commandments were simply a later, simplified version of the more profound and ancient sacred teachings of Mu. In this way, Churchward positioned the religion of Mu as the original pure wellspring from which all subsequent world religions flowed, casting them as fragmented and incomplete echoes of a single, perfect, primordial truth. A cornerstone of James Churchward's argument for the existence of Mu was his analysis of sacred symbols. He believed that Mu had a universal symbolic language, and that traces of this language could be found in ancient civilizations all over the world. The most important symbol of all was the sun. Churchward claimed that the people of Mu revered the sun not as a god, but as the primary symbol of the deity, representing its dual principles of creation and destruction. He meticulously documented the use of sun symbols, particularly rayed suns and sun discs, in places as disparate as Egypt, Babylon, Peru and Mexico, arguing this was undeniable proof of their common origin in the motherland. Another key piece of evidence for Churchward was the swastika. He noted its appearance in ancient cultures across the globe, from the Indus Valley and Tibet to the art of Native American tribes. He argued that this symbol, long before its corruption in the 20th century, was a sacred emblem from Mu, representing the 4 primary forces of the universe emanating from a central creator. Its global distribution, he claimed, could only be explained by it being carried from a single source by the colonizing emissaries of Mu. Every instance of a shared symbol became another thread in his grand tapestry, weaving the world's cultures together with a common Mu'an origin. Churchward also built a complex geometric and esoteric meaning around the figure of the pyramid. He believed that the pyramid shape was a sacred symbol in Mu, representing the path of humanity's spiritual journey towards the single point of the Creator. He taught that the Great Pyramid of Giza was not a tomb, but a copy of a sacred pyramid in Mu, a temple of initiation where the secrets of the universe were taught. The fact that pyramids were built by civilizations in both the Old and New worlds was, for him, irrefutable evidence of a shared architectural blueprint inherited from the lost continent. This symbolic evidence, while compelling to his readers, is seen by mainstream scholars as a classic case of confirmation bias and forced pattern matching. Many of these symbols, like the sun or the cross, are simple, fundamental shapes that are likely to arise independently in different cultures. However, for Churchward and his followers, the symbols were the key. They were the faint, scattered fingerprints left behind by the motherland. They formed a secret language that, once deciphered, told a single consistent story: that all of humanity was once part of a single global civilization, a glorious empire of peace and light, whose name was Mu. Our journey now reaches the point where Lemuria and Mu, once distinct legends, are fused into a single mythic superpower. In modern esoteric thought, Lemuria and Mu are often merged, creating a Pacific rival to Atlantis. This fusion sets the stage for a global drama. Atlantis, the technological titan, versus Lemuria Mu, the spiritual guardian. The world is split. Atlantis embodies material ambition, Lemuria Mu, intuitive harmony. This duality frames a mythic conflict, echoing our own fears of global division and catastrophe. As we move forward, remember this is a modern synthesis, not ancient fact, but it shapes the epic tale of a world at war. For millennia, Atlantis and Lemuria Mu coexisted in peace, leading a golden age of human achievement. Lemurians, masters of life sciences and spiritual wisdom, lived in harmony with nature. Atlanteans excelled in technology and engineering, building wonders powered by crystal energy. The two civilizations exchanged knowledge, balancing heart and mind, spirit and science. This partnership created a paradise: open borders, shared progress, and planetary cooperation. But beneath the surface, seeds of discord began to grow. As with all golden ages, this harmony was destined to end. The Atlanteans' pride in their technology grew, overshadowing their spiritual roots. A new elite, possibly influenced by sinister outsiders, sought domination, dismissing Lemurian wisdom as weakness. Reckless experiments destabilized the planet, alarming the Lemurians. Pleas for balance were ignored. The Atlanteans saw only obstacles to their destiny. The world split into rival camps, forced to choose between power and peace. Tensions escalated, and the planet teetered on the brink of war. The age of harmony was over. Conflict was inevitable. War erupted. Atlanteans struck first, unleashing weapons of unimaginable power. Crystal cannons, sonic devices, and nuclear bombs devastated Lemuria, turning paradise into wasteland. Millions perished. Survivors fled underground, seeking refuge in Agartha. Lemurian knowledge endured, and plans for retaliation began. The Atlanteans' attack shattered the balance, but the Lemurians would not surrender. The world was plunged into an apocalyptic struggle. The first blow had been struck, but the war was far from over. From Agartha, Lemurians unleashed their own cataclysm: earthquakes, volcanoes, and storms. They targeted Atlantis' foundations, aiming to sink the continent itself. The planet became a weapon nature turned against civilization. Atlanteans retaliated with more destruction, escalating the devastation. Air and sea became toxic, the ecosystem unraveled, and both empires spiraled toward annihilation. The war became a campaign of mutual destruction with no hope for victory. The world was on the edge of irreversible collapse. The unleashed forces proved uncontrollable earthquakes, floods, and a polar shift reshaped the planet. Super tsunamis and volcanic eruptions erased Lemuria and Atlantis in a single night. The Great Flood swept the world, remembered in myths across cultures. 99% of humanity perished, civilization was obliterated. Survivors faced a brutal new world, their memories fading into legend. The Age of Wonders ended, leaving only ruins and stories. From the ashes, humanity would begin again, haunted by the ghosts of lost continents. In the desolate aftermath of the Great War and the subsequent cataclysm, the world was a shattered and unrecognizable place. The few who had managed to survive emerged from their caves and shelters to a landscape of utter devastation. The skies were dark with volcanic ash for years, causing temperatures to plummet in a nuclear winter effect. The land was poisoned, the seas were dead, and the great cities of the old world were nothing but a memory buried beneath miles of water or layers of mud and silt. Humanity had been sent back to the Stone Age, but with the haunting memory of a time when they had been as gods. The handful of survivors were scattered across the globe in small, isolated pockets. The surviving Lemurians, according to one popular branch of the legend, eventually made their way from the subterranean kingdom of Agartha to a new home on the surface. They are said to have settled in the region around Mount Shasta in Northern California, a place of powerful earth energies, where they established a new hidden city called Telos, deep within the mountain. Here it is believed they continue to live in seclusion to this day, preserving their ancient wisdom and waiting for surface humanity to reach a level of spiritual maturity where they can safely re-emerge. The survivors of Atlantis, having no single continent to return to, were scattered more widely. Small groups of Atlantean refugees carrying with them fragments of their scientific and historical knowledge are said to have fled to different parts of the world before the final sinking. They established new settlements in places like Egypt, the Yucatan Peninsula in Central America, and the Basque Country in Spain. These refugees, it is claimed, became the mysterious civilizing heroes of ancient myth. They were the ones who kick-started the development of the post-Diluvian civilizations, teaching the local, more primitive populations the arts of agriculture, architecture, astronomy, and law. Over the course of thousands of years, these seeds of knowledge planted by the Atlantean survivors began to sprout. The great civilizations of the historical era, Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and the Maya, rose from the ashes of the old world. They were not the dawn of civilization, but rather its rebirth, a slow, painful climb back from the abyss. They possessed a strange, inherited knowledge, reflected in their sophisticated astronomical alignments and massive megalithic constructions, which seemed far beyond their known technological level. This, the legend concludes, is the legacy of the Great War, a global civilization erased, and a new one struggling to be born from its fragmented, half-forgotten ruins. In the twilight, the Earth was a desolate world. The survivors were few, scattered across the globe. These were the refugees of a drowned world. They were terrified people, watching as the floodwaters receded. Their cities were gone, their knowledge seemingly lost. The primary task was simply to endure. This memory would be passed down, becoming the flood myths we find today. They carried fragmented knowledge that would become the seeds of the next civilization. The story of these refugees is one of transmission. They would plant the seeds of a new civilization. One of the most captivating and detailed modern myths surrounds the fate of the Lemurian survivors. According to this narrative, the most advanced spiritual masters of Lemuria, foreseeing the inevitable cataclysm, retreated to their subterranean sanctuary within the earth. After the chaos on the surface subsided, they sought a new, permanent home, a place of great spiritual power, where they could preserve their knowledge in isolation. Their journey eventually led them to a majestic, dormant volcano in Northern California, Mount Shasta. Here, deep within the mountain, They are said to have constructed a magnificent city of light, a new sanctuary named Telos. Telos, as described in contemporary esoteric teachings, is a multi-leveled domed city, a marvel of crystal-based technology and harmonious architecture. It is said to house a population of over 1 million Lemurians, beings who have maintained their advanced consciousness and extended lifespans, living in a state of perfect peace and abundance. The city is a self-sufficient ecosystem, powered by the Earth's energies and illuminated by a crystalline central sun. Its inhabitants dedicate their lives to spiritual evolution, the preservation of the sacred Lemurian records, and the vital task of maintaining the energetic balance of the planet from within their hidden bastion of light. The residents of Telos are portrayed as the keepers of the flame, the silent guardians of humanity's spiritual heritage. They are said to possess vast libraries containing the complete history of the Earth, the sacred texts of Lemuria, and the advanced scientific and spiritual knowledge of the antediluvian world. From their secluded city, they telepathically monitor the evolution of surface humanity, offering subtle guidance and energetic support to those who are open to their influence. They are waiting, the story goes, for a time when humanity on the surface has evolved beyond its propensity for war and division. A time when the wisdom of Lemuria can be safely shared with the world once more. This myth of Mount Shasta and Telos has created a powerful modern pilgrimage site, drawing spiritual seekers from all over the world who hope to make contact with these benevolent inner earth guardians. People report strange lights, unusual cloud formations, and encounters with tall, graceful beings in white robes in the forests around the mountain. While there is no physical evidence to support these claims, the myth serves a deep psychological need. It offers a tangible hope that the wisdom of the lost golden age was not entirely destroyed, but is being safely kept for us, a promise of future revelation and a reunion with our wiser, more ancient relatives. While the Lemurians are said to have retreated into seclusion, the story of the Atlantean survivors is one of active engagement with the post-Diluvian world. Having lost their continental homeland, they were scattered in their advanced sea and air vessels, seeking refuge in their former colonial outposts. One of the primary destinations for these refugees, according to the law, was the fertile Nile Valley in what would become Egypt. Here, a group of Atlantean priests, scientists and engineers are said to have encountered a primitive local population and decided to establish a new center of civilization, kick-starting the rise of the Egyptian kingdom. This Atlantean intervention theory is used to explain the many mysteries of ancient Egypt. The sudden appearance of a highly advanced culture, the sophisticated mathematics and engineering required to build the Giza pyramids, the profound astronomical knowledge, and the esoteric wisdom encoded in their hieroglyphs are all attributed to this inheritance from Atlantis. The legendary Egyptian figure Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, is often identified as being an Atlantean priest-king who brought the sacred records and scientific knowledge from his doomed homeland. The Great Pyramid, in this view, was not a tomb, but a device for preserving knowledge and stabilizing the planet's energy grid after the cataclysm. Another major group of refugees, both from Atlantis and perhaps the western colonies of Lemuria, is said to have settled in the Indian subcontinent. This influx of advanced knowledge is thought to have merged with the indigenous Dravidian traditions, including the surviving memories of Kumari Kandam, to create the rich tapestry of early Indian civilization. The Vedic scriptures, with their descriptions of flying machines called vimanas and powerful divine weapons known as astras, are interpreted by some as being the distorted memories of Atlantean and Lemurian technology. The profound philosophical and spiritual concepts of Hinduism are seen as a direct continuation of the wisdom of this antediluvian age. This narrative of survivor colonies provides a neat, if speculative, solution to the puzzle of why great civilizations seem to spring up so suddenly and with such advanced knowledge around the world. It suggests a process of cross-pollination, where small groups of highly advanced survivors acted as catalysts, blending their inherited wisdom with local cultures to create the great empires of the ancient world. The echoes of Atlantis and Lemuria, therefore, are not just to be found in myths, but in the very foundations of Egypt, Sumer, India and the Americas, their legacy etched into the stones of the first pyramids and the verses of the first sacred texts. The stories of survivors on Mount Shasta and civilizing heroes in Egypt are not found in ancient manuscripts. They are products of a distinctly modern myth-making process. The 20th and 21st centuries have seen an explosion of interest in Lemuria and Mu, with a vast body of literature emerging that has expanded, embellished and synthesized the original legends into a complex and ever-evolving modern mythology. This new mythos is a syncretic creation, blending elements from theosophy, the writings of Churchward, New Age channeling and UFO lore, into a grand, overarching narrative of humanity's secret history. A key development in this modern era has been the role of channeled information. Numerous individuals have claimed to be in psychic communication with beings from Telos, with ascended masters like Adama of Lemuria or with the spiritual hierarchies of Atlantis. These channeled messages, distributed through books, websites and workshops, have become a primary source for new revelations about the lost continents. They provide incredibly detailed descriptions of daily life, technology, social structures, and the specific events leading to the cataclysm. This process allows the myth to remain alive and dynamic, constantly being updated with new information that addresses contemporary spiritual concerns. The rise of the internet has been a powerful accelerant for this modern mythos. It has allowed for the rapid dissemination of these ideas, connecting believers from all over the world and creating virtual communities dedicated to exploring the lost wisdom. Online forums, YouTube channels and social media groups have become the new oral tradition. Platforms where personal experiences, channeled texts and speculative theories can be shared and debated. This digital ecosystem has bypassed traditional gatekeepers of information, allowing the mythology of Lemuria and Mu to flourish and reach a global audience on an unprecedented scale, far beyond what Blavatsky or Churchward could have ever imagined. This modern myth-making process reflects a deep-seated desire for a more meaningful and magical history than the one offered by mainstream science and academia. It provides a narrative that is spiritually empowering, offering a direct connection to a glorious past and a hopeful vision for the future. It recasts humanity not as the product of blind evolution, but as the heirs of a divine legacy with a grand cosmic destiny waiting to be fulfilled. The modern mythos of Lemuria and Mu is in essence a new sacred story for a secular age, a testament to the enduring power of myth to provide meaning, identity and hope in a complex world. The enduring fascination with Lemuria and Atlantis speaks to a powerful dream of a better past. These stories serve as a counter-narrative to modern alienation, offering a vision of harmony with nature and profound wisdom. It's a potent nostalgia for a past that may never have been, and a critique of our present failures. The legends act as a mirror, reflecting our society's destruction and emptiness. Yet, it's also a dream of hope, suggesting that the keys to solving our crises may lie hidden in our forgotten past. It is a quest for our lost potential, a journey to reclaim the wisdom we need to heal ourselves and our planet. Our journey in search of Lemuria and Mu now draws to a close. What we are left with is not a simple answer, but a profound and enduring mystery. The allure of these lost worlds is undeniable. The names Lemuria and Mu resonate with a sense of profound loss, but also with a glimmer of profound hope. The legends of Lemuria and Mu provide a grand, unifying narrative. They are the great ghost stories of our planet, haunting reminders of the fragility of civilization. The search for Lemuria and Mu is a search for a deeper understanding of our place in the story of life on Earth. Throughout our exploration, we have seen how the story of Lemuria and Mu is a unique and intricate tapestry, woven from the two distinct threads of scientific inquiry and mythological tradition. One thread is rational, empirical, and seeks to explain the physical world through evidence and logic. The other is intuitive, symbolic, and seeks to convey deep truths about the human condition through story and ancestral memory. The legend of the lost continents exists in the fascinating space where these two threads intertwine, creating a pattern richer and more complex than either could produce alone. It is, honestly, a testament to the fact that humanity has always used both reason and revelation to make sense of its origins. The story of Lemuria began its modern life as a purely scientific hypothesis, a logical, if ultimately incorrect, attempt to solve the puzzle of lemur distribution within the framework of 19th century geology. Yet this scientific idea was so resonant that it was immediately embraced by the mystics, who saw it as confirmation of their own spiritual histories. Conversely, the ancient Tamil legend of Kumari Kandam, a story preserved for millennia, has found a remarkable, if coincidental, echo in the modern scientific understanding of post-glacial sea level rise. The myth of a land seized by the ocean aligns powerfully with the geological reality of a world reshaped by catastrophic floods at the end of the last ice age. This interplay between myth and science, well, it forces us to question the rigid boundaries we often erect between different ways of knowing. It suggests that these two domains may not be mutually exclusive enemies, but could be complementary partners in the quest for truth. Perhaps the ancient myths contain a form of preserved science, a record of real, astronomical and geological events passed down in the language of poetry and allegory. And perhaps modern science, in its relentless pursuit of data, occasionally uncovers truths that resonate with the deepest archetypes of the human psyche, inadvertently giving new life to ancient legends. The tale of Lemuria and Mu, therefore, serves as a powerful case study in the co-creation of meaning. It illustrates how a scientific theory can become a vessel for mythological belief, and how an ancient myth can provide a compelling framework for interpreting scientific data. This dynamic relationship is what gives the legend its enduring intellectual and spiritual vitality. It allows the story to be appreciated on multiple levels simultaneously, as a history of science, as a repository of folklore, and as a modern spiritual epic, a rich and multi-layered narrative that continues to evolve with each new discovery and each new interpretation. As we sift through the legends of Lemuria, Mu and Atlantis, we find a persistent theme: catastrophic destruction. Whether a sunken land bridge, a volcanic apocalypse, or a nuclear war, the story ends in a global crisis. This narrative, particularly of a great flood, is a near-universal theme found in cultures worldwide. This universality suggests a shared memory of a real global trauma. The end of the last ice age was a period of immense geological violence. Legends of sinking continents become metaphors for coastal peoples watching their world drown. The myths are not fiction, but a form of disaster memory. This transforms how we view the ancient world. They were the traumatized survivors of a lost world. The echo of this global trauma reverberates through our oldest stories. The myths of Lemuria and Mu are powerful mirrors that reflect the anxieties of our modern age. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the story has taken on a darker tone, speaking to our fears of self-destruction and ecological collapse. The modern myth of a war between Atlantis and Lemuria is a projection of our own nuclear anxieties onto the past. It warns that our technological hubris could lead us to the same catastrophic fate. The utopian visions of Lemuria serve as a painful contrast to our current environmental crisis. The lost continents become a canvas onto which we project our greatest fears and longings. They warn us of the terrible fate that could await us if we fail to learn the lessons of their fall. In the final analysis, the enduring pursuit of Lemuria and Mu is more than a hunt for sunken cities or a fascination with esoteric lore. It is an expression of the fundamental, unfinished quest to understand our own origins. The story of humanity, as it is officially told, feels incomplete to many. It is a story with a missing first chapter, a prologue that has been torn from the book. The legends of the lost continents represent a bold attempt to write that missing chapter, to fill in the vast, silent millennia of prehistory with a narrative of purpose, grandeur and meaning. It is a quest to find our own story. This quest challenges us to remain open-minded and to question the assumptions that underpin our view of the past. It reminds us that the map of the world is not fixed, and that the timeline of civilization may be far longer and more complex than we currently believe. The tantalizing archeological clues, the submerged structures, the impossible megaliths, the shared global symbols, serve as constant reminders that we have not solved all the mysteries of our past. They are breadcrumbs on a trail that leads back into the deep mists of time, beckoning us to keep searching, to keep exploring, and to keep questioning the accepted narrative. This journey of discovery is ultimately a journey inwards. The search for a lost paradise, a golden age of wisdom and harmony, is also a search for the lost continent within ourselves. It is a quest to awaken our own higher potential, to reclaim the parts of our consciousness that may have become dormant, and to remember our connection to the earth and to the cosmos. The legends tell us that we are the descendants of beings who possessed incredible spiritual and creative power, and they imply that this same potential lies latent within each of us, waiting to be rediscovered. Therefore, the story of Lemuria and Mu will never truly be over, because it is our story. As long as humanity looks up at the stars and wonders where we came from, as long as we feel a sense of longing for a more perfect world, and as long as we have the courage to venture into the unknown territories of our planet and our own consciousness, the quest will continue. The lost continents will forever shimmer on the horizon of our imagination, not as a definitive answer, but as an eternal question, a sacred mystery that inspires us to continue the unending and deeply human search for who we really are. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you would truly like to support the author Joshua, or wish to learn more about humanity's hidden history, you can purchase your copy of Forbidden Genesis, The Untold Story of Man Today. The link is in the description box below. Thank you so